Good afternoon, everyone. And this presentation will be about a lesson plan created for history, a 10th grade history class that consists of WIDA 3 and 4 students. This lesson attempts to create an understanding about the Reconstruction era amendments to the United States Constitution and its consequences. So without further ado, here we go. There were 3 amendments during this time period: the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, which this lesson centers on the adoption of the 13th Amendment. I chose to present this particular lesson because I felt that it was a critical time in our nation's history. For those in the audience that don't remember it from your history lessons, I'll give a quick refresher. The Reconstruction period followed the Civil War, which lasted from 1865 to 1877. Although the nation was elated the war was over, there were still deep divisions between the North and South. With the devastation in many sectors of the economy, Northerners had a desire to return to normalcy and create economic growth. On the other hand, in the Southern states, many people still had bitter feelings due to the terms of the surrender and a defeat to the Union Army. In addition, many also felt that Northerners were taking advantage of some Southerners. These feelings, along with economic and political instability, manifested itself in many ways during the Reconstruction, and it had ramifications for many decades to follow. One could make a case that some of the effects of Reconstruction has lasted to the present day. The passage of the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments to the Constitution were attempts by Congress to address long-standing questions of basic human rights, fulfilling the nation's creed set by the founding fathers of the Constitution, by abolishing slavery, establishing and granting citizenship to former slaves and others, and expansion of voting rights. The Reconstruction era also laid foundations for racial politics in this country. With the example, or I'll give an example, the shift by many white Southerners to support the Democratic Party well into the late 20th century, due in part by their anger toward Abraham Lincoln and his Republican Party. So today, the language focus for this lesson will be on vocabulary and reading, simply because it gives all students a good foundation to grasp the various reasons, motivations, actions amongst the key people during this time period. So here's an overview of the lesson plan. We won't go over every point, but I will highlight and briefly discuss important aspects that support student comprehension and enhancing our ELL understanding of the lesson and English language proficiency. Now, taking into consideration the grade level, which is the 10th grade, and WIDA level focus, which I have mentioned already, is WIDA 3 and 4. Well, I felt that most of these, if not all of these students, should have a funds of knowledge to draw upon. Basically, some prior history lesson. An example of this would be like American History 1, which goes from the colonial period all the way through the antebellum period into the Civil War period. Grouping is another important aspect. An educator should carefully group native speakers with the WIDA 3s and 4s according to academic knowledge, strengths, and weaknesses. The goal of this lesson is, or will be, we will be using materials like the primary source documents, a vocabulary word list with definitions, and with those students will be able to comprehend the processes, meaning, and significance regarding the adoption of constitutional amendments during the Reconstruction period. So now we're going to go into the implementation phase. At this juncture, we won't get into the details of the objectives and assessments, but I would like to turn your attention to something equally important when thinking about implementation strategies to assist ELL students, and that is theories. So briefly, I would like to touch upon one important theory, which is the innatist theory, with particular focus on Krashen's 5 hypotheses. We should be roughly familiar with these hypotheses, even though it was ages ago we studied these, but I believe two of Krashen's hypotheses support my objectives for this lesson. And they are input hypotheses and effective filter hypotheses. The input hypothesis is a direct result of a learner's understanding of the target language in a natural communication setting. In addition, instruction should be made understandable. Krashen often called this the comprehensible input, and should contain grammatical structures that are just a bit beyond the language learner's current level of development, or as he would say, the I+1. The effective filter hypothesis refers to a low anxiety learning environment which fosters student motivation, self-confidence, and self-esteem. Another important aspect of any lesson is to ensure the content supports and enhances BICS and CALPS development, which we have all learned during the semester. As you will see in the next few slides, to support vocabulary development and the I+1, I've created a short list with words from the text. Students will be broken into small groups according to their WIDA levels and read the passages from the text and use the appropriate strategies to aid understanding and appropriate use of the vocabulary words. And again, we're still on implementation. We will quickly review the objectives and assessments of each WIDA level and the lesson progression targets. For my WIDA 3s, they will understand appropriate level of vocabulary to gain understanding and significance of the supporting legislation from reading primary source documents. The assessment for WIDA 3s they will be able to utilize contextual redefinition strategies to comprehend keywords and concepts. For my WIDA 4 students, they will read the text to gain understanding of the reasons and significance behind opposing legislation, and of course reading from their primary source text. Their assessment will be to utilize the DR-TA strategy to verify content, knowledge, and vocabulary. So here's an example of the Group 1's vocabulary words with their definitions. And here's Group 2 vocabulary words and definitions. So these words, I felt that they would have academic meaning and would be focusing on the comprehensive input and what Krashen has taught us to concentrate on the I+1. You always want to get your students to the next level. Here's an overview of the lesson plan, page 2. Now we will look at the lesson progression portion, but we'll pay particular attention to number 3. The class will go into small groups to read short passages which are excerpts of speeches given by 2 congressmen on the House floor in January of 1864. The 2 congressmen, one was from Ohio. He was in favor of legislation to abolish slavery, and the other was Representative Rogers from New Jersey. He was a Democrat, and he was opposed to legislation. Here's an example of the text and that's from the primary source document that the students will read. Well, each group of students will read. As you can see, there's Andrew Jackson Rogers on the left, and Representative James Ashley of Ohio on the right. And these you also can see, they're highlighted in the text, are the vocabulary words. Now, at this point in time, we want to bring your attention to after the discussion, or after the students complete their assignment, they also can go to ThingLink. ThingLink is a website that students can use, and as you can see here, you can create your own channels, and in this case it's a channel about this particular topic, and then you have the picture, or you can put images of whatever topic that you want, and you can also put captions next to the person in the image, and this can help students understand the lesson a little bit better, and they'll have some degree of control over what they want what the image to say and how they want to portray their characters, and this will help them to understand the content. I can't quite get into the channel, but this is basically what it would be. And this is where I have here the 13th Amendment. Oh, okay, here we go. So here we go. We have the images, and there's Abraham Lincoln there, and we have our congressmen, our two congressmen on the far left and right, and in the middle here is an excerpt from the newspaper of the time, the Harper's Weekly, and it's a picture of the members of Congress, apparently at the time of the passage of the 13th Amendment. So you can put any kind of or students can put any kind of text above it. So that is an example of using technology in the classroom along with utilizing the strategies in order to understand the particular text and the vocabulary words. So next, I would like to turn your attention to conduct a check on learning, and that would be part of the exercise in this lesson. And that's basically just a review of all that you were trying to teach the classroom, and see and get feedback from the students to see if they've actually learned the lesson and they've comprehend some of the vocabulary words. So in conclusion, the lesson plan should appropriately address. That's a little premature. Let's go back. Lesson plans should appropriately address WIA levels, groupings, goals, and objectives that meet academic content standards. A good educator should always be mindful of the ELL students' prior content knowledge, aim for comprehensible input, +1, effective filter, lessons that enhance BICS and CALC development, and lastly, educators should use thoughtful utilization of strategies, wise use of technology like ThinkLink to enhance academic content, and most importantly, English language acquisition. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and good night.